Hi there. Hope you guys are well. Today, our topic is getting better tone. So, first, just answering the question, what is tone? Tone is the quality of our sound, and even more specifically, it's the characteristic or unique quality of our sound. So, it's just a more specific way of saying how a person's voice sounds. We usually will use terms like bright. A bright tone would have a quality kind of like, ah. I know it doesn't really make sense to describe things in that way, but it's good for you to kind of get acquainted with some of these terms. So, a bright tone again would sound something like, ah, versus a dark tone, a little bit darker. We'll also talk about terms like forward and backward. Again, doesn't make a ton of sense until you hear what I'm talking about. So sometimes people will describe a e kind of tone. Sounds like it's coming at you, coming forward, versus a backward kind of tone. Feels or sounds a little bit more like I'm sending the sound back behind me instead of right out at you, a forward tone. Okay, so we'll talk about some more terms, but just wanted to throw those at you: bright versus dark, and forward versus backward. So the thing that everybody wants is better tone, just a better sounding voice. And the tricky thing about talking about this is tone is subjective. For example, a lot of people like a certain tone, and other people do not like that tone. There are very few singers where we have 100% global agreement on, yes, that singer has a wonderful tone. Um, Sam Smith, maybe you love him, maybe you can't stand him. Billie Eilish, maybe you love her, maybe you can't stand her. There are very few singers who everyone would agree, yes, that person has beautiful tone, hands down, no one can argue. I think Whitney Houston is a great example. I'd be hard pressed to find someone who says, nah, her tone isn't that good. We've got a consensus there. Whitney Houston's tone is beautiful. So in general, when people are talking about getting better tone, they kind of mean a sound that is pleasant, that isn't annoying. Usually people are talking about a sound that is kind of smooth and not overly nasal or kind of cutting. So we'll talk about that too later. And we'll go through some exercises as well. So, what impacts your tone? I like to think of two things that impact your tone. One is your anatomy. So, that's what you were born with, your bone structure, the size and shape of your throat and your mouth. So, anatomy, that's something we can't change. But then technique is number two. Technique is how we shape are resonators. And again, by resonators, I mean your throat and your mouth. And I'll quickly just demonstrate how I shape my throat and mouth will greatly impact the tone or the quality of the sound. So if I have a very, very small, narrow opening, e versus ah, a more relaxed taller opening. Again, listen to the tonal difference. The first one sounds quite bright, sort of nasal, kind of constricted. E versus oh. Okay, so I'm the same person. My anatomy obviously hasn't changed. All I've done is I've opened up some more space in my mouth and throat to get that bigger, rounder, slightly warmer sound. So we'll go through how to do that yourself as well. Um, So anatomy and technique, and we're focusing on technique since anatomy we can't do anything about. Um, so tone and your natural voice. A lot of people have questions about what their natural voice, their true voice, their real voice is. And I always encourage my beginning students to have their basis, their speaking voice. That sentence was not phrased very well. Let me try again. Um, to use your speaking voice as the foundation of your singing voice. That's a little bit clearer. um, so when you speak and then when you go to sing, there shouldn't really be this crazy tonal difference. With some singers, maybe that's true. But in general, for beginning singers, especially those of you who are singing modern or contemporary kind of styles, pop, R&B, styles like that, your speaking voice is a really good place to start. And we don't need to overcomplicate things. So, we're going to do a couple exercises that use your speaking voice as the foundation of the sound. So, I don't want you to overthink it and think, oh, now I'm singing. Now I have to do things completely differently. No, no, no. Let's basically speak into our singing voice, speak into these pitches. So I'm going to start in a range where most of us can sing all together. So that's basses, tenors, altos, and sopranos should all be able to sing in this range. Maybe not sopranos. Sopranos, you might have to come in a little bit later. But we're going to start on an E3. Turn up my piano a little bit. And we're going to speak sing. We're going to go no, 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 no. That might be low for some altos too, myself included. But basses and tenors, you can lead the way. Find that pitch if you have a chromatic tuner. It's E3, F sharp 3, G sharp 3, and walking back down, F sharp, E. Okay, so basically, we're speak singing. No, 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 no. And we're walking up. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Altos can join. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Keep going. Here we are, A3. Just speaking on pitch. Sopranos join. No, 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 no. Keep going. Basses drop out if you need to. Good. So just to start, we're using your speaking voice. Now, to me, the only real difference between speaking and singing is that we're sustaining those pitches instead of just cutting them short. So the difference between speaking the word no and singing is no. I'm sustaining. No. No. And then, of course, we maybe add some vibrato and maybe shape our tone a little bit differently. But, kind of fundamentally, we're using our voice in basically the same way. So let's make that a little bit more singable. Instead of speaking, no, 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 no. Now we'll say, no. But don't do anything crazy different with your tone. Don't, freak out and think, oh no, now I'm singing. You're still basically just speaking, but we're sustaining that pitch. no. And now moving to those different pitches instead of re-articulating no, 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 no. Okay, here it goes. Most people could probably start here. We're on F sharp 3. So get out your chromatic tuner. Make sure you're singing that correct pitch. F sharp 3. Sopranos, this might be too low for you. I'll shout out when it's time for you guys to join. Here we go. Breathe together and everybody sing. No. 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 Sopranos, you can join. Couple more. Last one. Nice. So a couple other exercises you might want to try. This kind of speaking voice foundation into singing thing that we're trying out. Singing words like no or whoa or hey. So let's quickly run through those other ones that I mentioned. We'll sing whoa. And again, we're going to start. I'll demonstrate up the octave, and basses and tenors, you'll start down here. Whoa! I'm demonstrating up the octave because I can't sing that low. But tenors and basses, you're singing G3, C3. Okay, so we're just sliding whoa. Here we go, basses and tenors. Calling across the room. Altos join. Whoa. 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 Sopranos join. Whoa. Whoa. Keep going. Switch to head voice if you need to. Whoa. Whoa. Last one. Good. So instead of speaking into our singing voice, now we're kind of calling into our singing voice. Let's sing last kind of speaking voice exercise. And by the way, there's a whole branch of vocal pedagogy that is called the speech level singing method, SLS. And a lot of contemporary teachers use exercises like this with your speaking voice as the foundation of your singing voice. So if you're interested, you can Google that and learn more on SLS or speech level singing. Last exercise, we're going to, again, kind of speak/call into our singing voice, and we're going to sing hey. And our pattern will be, again, I'm going to demonstrate up the octave. Hey, hey, hey. Tenors and basses, you're down here on a C3, E3, G3. All right, tenors and basses, start us out and breathe. Hey. Hey, hey, hey. can fall off that top note. Hey, hey, hey. Altos join. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Really relaxed. Hey, hey, hey. Sopranos join. Basses drop out if you need to. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Last one. Nice. So using exercises like that, singing on the no, whoa, hey, kind of speaking voicey exercises can really give you an idea of what your natural voice or your true voice really sounds like when you're not trying too hard, when you're just letting your voice be, just using your speaking voice, singing into it, sustaining those pitches. I recommend that if you're really confused and have a bunch of questions about what am I supposed to sound like? I don't know what my singing voice should sound like. Start there. Start with your speaking voice, speaking into some, more sustained pitches as we just did. And that'll give you an idea of kind of the foundation of your tone. And you heard my tone kind of changed as I started singing higher. And that's bound to happen for you as well. When you're down in your low chest voice range, hey, 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 you'll have a different tone quality than when you're starting to sing up in head voice. Hey, hey, hey. That's going to happen. So just throwing that out at you as well. I want to talk quickly about tone and your influences. So we talked about how your anatomy impacts your tone, and then your technique, how you're shaping your mouth and throat. But another really, really important factor is what kind of music did you listen to growing up? And what kind of music are you listening to now? Singers usually sound most like the singers they grew up listening to, especially when they were first learning how to sing. They were just learning by ear or learning by rote. So you'll hear, some kids become amazing singers without any formal training. They don't really even know, technically what they're doing, but they're able just by ear to imitate or mimic the tone of the singers that they've grown up listening to. So for adult singers or even, teen or older kid singers who are starting out, I encourage you to use that as a tool as well. Use imitation, mimicking sounds that you hear. That's a very, very powerful tool to learn how to make some different tone qualities with your voice. And you don't even necessarily need to know the technique behind it. It's the same idea of, you doing an impression. If you're trying to do a Kermit the Frog impression or, a Mickey Mouse impression, you might land on a decent impression without knowing exactly how you got there. You don't need to know, okay, I'm raising my soft palate and I'm kind of narrowing my mouth and I'm dropping my jaw. Whatever the technical aspect is, you don't always need that in order to, mimic or imitate a tone successfully. So throwing that out there as well, use your ear and your powers of, mimicry and imitation as well in your singing journey. So one huge, huge thing when we talk about tone is our vowel shapes. So I'd love to demonstrate for you just the natural tone quality of the different vowel shapes we have, at least in, the English language and in some of the Romance languages as well. So listen to how my tone is drastically different as I kind of morph through these different vowel shapes. If I sing the vowel ah versus o versus e, ah, A, oo. You probably heard, a somewhat consistent tone, but you'll hear kind of different qualities of sound when I sing an E versus O. Why is that? It goes back to technique, how we're shaping our resonators. And basically, a vowel is just shaping your throat and mouth in a different way. So, one of our goals as singers is to maintain a pretty consistent tone throughout the different vowels we sing. It won't sound great if I sing ah, e, o, u, and I have this crazy different tone. Rather, the goal of all singers, not just classical singers, even though if you're a classical singer, you probably already know this, is to keep a consistent tone. Let me demonstrate. Ah, e, o, u, versus ah, e, o, u. These big tonal shifts. So the easiest way to do that is to maintain a pretty stable jaw position. You'll notice if I'm singing ah, e, my mouth is really moving kind of abruptly. Rather, we want to go for this stable jaw position. You can, put a finger on your jaw if you want. You're not holding it into place, but you're just noticing how much it's moving, and you're gently reminding yourself, keep that jaw nice and relaxed, dropping down. So these vowels, if you're not familiar, I'm singing A, E, I, O, and U, but I'm singing the Latin pronunciation or the Romance language pronunciation. So Spanish and Italian have these vowel sounds as well as Latin. So let's try this. We're singing one single note and we're rolling through these vowels, I, O, and we're listening for a consistent tone quality as we shift vowels. So let's start on this G. This is G3. Sopranos, you can be up the octave if you want. I, O. But basses, tenors, and altos can be down here with me. I'll play both just so you can hear them. All right, take a breath, and we're singing A, E, O, and U on just one single breath. Here we go. Let's walk down. Relatively stable jaw. We're on an E now. Cool. Let's try the same principle of consistent tone throughout different vowel shapes on a stepwise pattern. So let's start, we'll start on a D major chord. Sopranos and altos, you can be starting on D4, right above middle C. Tenors and basses, please start on D3, the octave lower. And we'll sing A, E, O, A, E, O, U. Same order, but now we're just taking that melodic pattern for a walk. So instead of singing A, E, O on one pitch, we're going up and down. And changing our vowel for every pitch change as well. Okay, listen again. Sing along if you're ready. A, E, O. Nice breath. It's hard to just sing an open vowel. So take a nice breath. Keep your, beautiful tall singer's posture as well. Stand up if you can. I know I'm sitting down, but if you're standing, that's even better. Okay, everybody together starting on this D4. or D3, and breathe. Walking up E flat. E, stable jaw. Give me two more. Last one, G major. Nice. So we want a consistent tone as we shift to different vowels. We also want a consistent tone on the same vowel as we sing different pitches. So this is getting into the concept of vowel modification. Classical singers, again, you know all about this, but pop and other kind of contemporary singers, you might not know about vowel modification, but you need to know about it. And famous pro pop singers also know about it. So the idea here is we want to keep a consistent tone regardless of the pitch when we're singing on any given vowel. Let me give an example of what happens if I don't modify my vowel. Sorry, there's a random little middle C for you. You're welcome. Okay, so if I don't modify my vowel and I keep the same shape, I'll demonstrate on an E vowel because that one's the most obvious. If I sing E, listen to the difference in tone. E sounds fine. E does not. Tone is starting to get a little bit constricted, a little bit thin. How do I help myself out? Okay, so I help myself out and you help yourself out by modifying the vowel as you change pitch. So the solution for this particular vowel, the E vowel, is to open up by dropping your jaw as you ascend in pitch. Listen to the difference in tone. E, not great, versus E, better. E. On the top there, we're not singing a pure E anymore. We're singing something closer to I. And you'll see my jaw kind of adjusts back a little bit more closed as I descend in pitch. So let's try this. Sopranos and altos, starting on C4. Tenors and basses, please start on C3. We're singing through a major scale. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's a major scale if you didn't know before today. So singing first on an E vowel, and the principle is higher pitch, lower jaw. Okay, let's give this a try. Let's go a little bit slower and grab a breath in between, in the middle. If you run out of breath, that's okay. Here we go. E. Try it again. Higher pitch, lower jaw. Take a breath. Cool. Let's try it on an O vowel. You might find that some vowels don't require as much modification. So let's try that first. Let's sing that same pattern on an O no modification. See how it goes. Listen to your tone. Not bad. The difference in tone between oh and oh, not terrible. But you could modify it if you found that your tone was starting to get a little too thin and constricted on the top. Then follow that same principle. Modify that vowel, drop your jaw as you ascend in pitch. We're trying it on the O vowel. Here we go. O. Now, we're not technically singing oh, we're singing more like oh, more of an or an ah even. That's okay. Beauty and consistency of tone is more important than singing the exact correct vowel shape. And when you're singing lyrics, again, beauty and consistency of tone is more important than I don't want to say intelligibility because we do want to be understood, but it's more important than singing exactly as you would speak those words. For example, in most pop songs that you're going to hear, you don't hear those pop singers going, baby, baby, because that E vowel, it just tends to get too nasal and too closed. Listen for your favorite pop song that has the word baby in it, and they'll say baby, baby, instead of baby. Listen for that. That's one pretty obvious example. Okay, so this vowel modification business, we're dropping our jaw as we ascend in pitch. So what was the rule? Higher pitch, lower jaw. And in general, you're going to use that the most on really closed vowels like oo and e. Those tend to need more modification than a vowel like ah, which is already open. So if we try that on ah, again, C major, C4, or C3. We don't really need to modify because your jaw's already relaxed. Okay, so let's talk about when and why to drop your jaw. If you're a beginning singer, I'm going to take a wild guess here and say you should probably drop your jaw more. In general, that's advice that I give to, I would say 99% of singers in their first lesson. Drop your jaw more. So if I'm speaking to you, let me explain a little bit more. Dropping your jaw, as we just realized and heard, it increases the amount of resonant space, specifically the space inside your mouth. So I gave an example at the beginning of this lesson. Ooh versus ah, or e, really, really closed versus ah. Why is the tone so different? It's because we're changing the size and shape of our resonator, our mouth, and our throat to a lesser degree. But if I've been using the word resonator and you're like, what is that? Resonance is just another word for vibration. So let me just talk about, how your sound is produced really quickly. If you're not sure or you're new to singing or just need a refresher. So the sound wave that we create, it's created at the level of your larynx. Your vocal folds are housed in there, and your vocal folds are this soft tissue. They vibrate together. Your larynx is made of cartilage, so there's muscle, cartilage, and it's suspended from bone. And so your vocal folds are vibrating together, and they're basically creating your sound wave by cutting up the air that's passing through. So you've taken in a breath and you're expelling that air through your vocal folds. They vibrate together and, cut up that air into a sound wave. At the level of your vocal folds, that doesn't really sound like much. But once it's filtered through the rest of your vocal tract, meaning the top of your throat and your pharynx, your nasal cavity, and your mouth, then we get this sound with, a specific tone to it. And we can change the tone based on how we open or close our resonator, the space in which our sound wave is resonating or vibrating. This principle, it's the same idea as why a ukulele sounds different than a big bass, or a flute sounds different. Let me give a better example. I'm trying to think of examples of small instruments that look the same versus bigger instruments. So a violin versus a cello. Way, way different size in resonant space and shape to some degree. And it results in a different tone quality. So we're talking about when and why to drop your jaw. Let me bring it back. So dropping your jaw increases your resonant space. It gives us more volume and usually a more relaxed, open, warm, beautiful tone without really trying. So ooh versus ooh, same vowel, just modified. Or if I'm singing ah and I'm barely opening my mouth, ah, you can hear that jaw tension I've got versus soft jaw, ah, so much nicer, so much more relaxed. So again, beginners, drop your jaw more in general. Regardless of the exercise you're singing, you could probably benefit from dropping your jaw. So if you're doing something like a basic mum, 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 and you're closing up mum, 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 that's not going to be your best singing tone. Mum, 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 mum. Little bit nicer. If you're singing ah, and you're closing your jaw, ah, much nicer, much more relaxed, much more warm and round and beautiful. That's usually the tone that we're going for, is warmer, rounder, more pretty. Not all the time, but usually. Okay, I want to remind you right now, as we're kind of nearing the end of the instruction phase, the last 15 minutes of our time together this morning or evening, wherever you are, will be Q&A. So please get those questions in if you're joining me live, and we'll talk about tone. I saw some questions before on range and identifying your vocal type or voice part. So I'd love to answer those questions. Now's a good time to start getting them in. We're going to keep talking about tone, though, for another 7 minutes. So 3 articulators that you should know. Again, that's a new word, maybe. Speech therapists and speech language pathologists will know about the articulators. So 3 articulators you should know are your tongue, your lips, and your soft palate. And the articulators in speech and in singing, but in speech, the articulators again allow you to articulate. They allow you to create different sounds. So usually we're thinking of, well, I'm going to stop that train of thought and get to singing. Okay, so 3 articulators that you should know: your tongue, your lips, and your soft palate. Let's take a look specifically at how those and the position of those 3 articulators will impact your tone. So first, your tongue. You probably don't think about your tongue a lot when you're singing. And that's okay. In general, we want our tongue to be relaxed. We want the tip of your tongue to be just resting behind your bottom teeth. But I want to show you what happens if you're in the habit of singing with a high tongue position, what that does to your tone. So I can demonstrate this most easily on an E vowel because to make an E vowel, your tongue is naturally going to be pretty high. So do this with me. Sing E. And any pitch doesn't matter. E. And notice the tone quality. E. It's pretty nasal. It's pretty bright. Sometimes you might want that sound, but a lot of singers don't. A lot of singers are trying to get away from an overly nasal sound. I'm not bashing nasality. Nasality is good. We don't want an absence of nasality. That would sound like "ee." That's also not a good tone. So we do want to balance, but if your tongue is high, again, go to that E, not our best tone. And if you can look in the mirror and see your tongue position, you'll see that your tongue is raised up pretty high. So now let's see what happens if we go from E to ah, E, ah, or E, O. I think E-ah is better. So let's start on an E and then morph to an ah and feel how your tongue drops. And if you have a mirror in front of you and you can see inside your mouth, look at your tongue dropping. E, ah. Feel your tongue drop naturally. E, ah. What does that tell us? If you're in the habit of singing with an overly high tongue position, you're probably going to get a more nasal, closed, forward constricted sound. If your tongue is lower, you have a more open tone. You're not narrowing your vocal tract too much. So, if you're noticing too much nasality, brightness, kind of a thin sound, check in with your tongue position. That's why a lot of times singing teachers like to do exercises like yaw or ma, because it kind of gets our tongue in a more neutral, relaxed position. So, anyways, throwing that out there, your tongue. High tongue is brighter, more nasal. Low, relaxed tongue, more dark, more open. You could maybe take that too far, but in general, we want that tongue to just be relaxed. The tip should be just resting behind your bottom teeth. And if you feel that your tongue is jumping up, tensing, or just kind of sitting up too high, then you'll want to train on ah and yeah, whoa. Really open, kind of darker vowels to unlearn that high tongue position. Second articulator is your lips. Also, you probably don't think about your lips too much when you're singing. They're just, moving around. But your lips can elongate your resonant tube. They can basically make your mouth a little bit longer. So let me give an example. If I'm singing, ooh, and I kind of protrude my lips forward a little bit, ooh, listen, ooh. That probably looks really funny, but you should try that at home. No one's, taking video of you, so it doesn't matter if you look silly. Look in front of a mirror and see if you can morph from ooh with your lips just where they normally would be, and then bring those lips forward. A little bit of a, duck face going on. But notice how the tone kind of comes forward at you a little bit more. You have greater volume. Try it on that ooh vowel. Ooh. classical singers are a master of this. You'll see them doing this, kind of fluting the lips or yeah, a little duck face happening on with their singing. Also with an E vowel, you'll see that a lot, especially with classical singers. E with the lips pulled back versus E, 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 E. Now, again, tone is subjective. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm saying if you want that, greater volume, kind of more forward, more resonant space kind of sound, this is how you can get it. Last, and maybe the most important, your soft palate. Your soft palate is that soft space in the back of your mouth. So your hard palate is just the roof of your mouth. And if you just travel back behind that, you have your soft palate. Your soft palate lifts up, kind of stretches out when you yawn. So if you try to yawn and you feel kind of a stretch in the back of your mouth above your throat, that's your soft palate lifting. So this is maybe the most important way to increase resonant space for a warmer, rounder, richer tone. So let me give an example. If I'm singing, ah, that's with my soft palate down. I'm not lifting it. Now, if I lift it, ah, ah, ah. Let me demonstrate down in chest voice. Ah, a little bit flat. Ah, ah, ah. Okay, how do you lift your soft palate if you've never done that before? Basically, you pretend like you're about to yawn or you're just thinking about yawning. You should feel your soft palate lift. It's very difficult to do that without actually yawning. So it takes practice to lift your soft palate. So you inhale, kind of thinking about a pre-yawn. Ah, and then you sing, keeping that soft palate lifted. Ah, ah, versus ah, ah. Okay, something to play around with, but a very important coordination to learn for singers of any style, not just classical singers. Pop, musical theater, R&B singers, you'll all benefit from being able to control your soft palate, lift it or lower it if that's the tone you're going for. Again, not right or wrong, just different. And most singers, especially beginning singers, are trying to get away from excess nasality and they're trying to have a rounder, richer tone. Okay. Question time. So we had people asking about how to determine your vocal range or voice type. I am going to give you an article that I wrote on this very subject. So let me find it really quickly, but I'm going to paste that into our comment section. Vocal range, 30-day singer. By the way, if I didn't say that, well, you're on our channel, but I'm with 30-day singer, and you can check out full-length singing courses, tutorials, all that good stuff over on 30daysinger.com. And we also have articles on many, many topics. So here's one. This is one that I wrote. So you can click that link or copy and paste that link, 30daysinger.com. This is /blog/ finding your vocal range. Anyways, it's there. It'll walk you through the process of determining your vocal range. So much easier than me walking through with you. You can just go there. You've got some resources to help you do that. Sarah is asking Can you talk a bit about cutting breathiness out of your tone? Such a good question, Sarah. Thank you for asking. You're saying there was the one tutorial in the beginner lessons, but I still have no idea how to actively maintain chord closure on anything other than a ga. Okay. Um, so Sarah's referring to the um, 30-day singer beginner course. And in one of those videos, we talk about chord compression or chord closure. And when we have adequate chord closure, we have a nice strong tone and we don't have any excess air leaking through or escaping through our vocal folds. So the difference in tone is ah versus ah, ah, ah. Okay, Sarah was able to increase her chord closure by singing on something like a g or a gug, gig, goog, something like that. That g brings our vocal folds together really firmly. And then when we go to sing on that, gug, 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 we get that nice strong tone with no air leaking through. So, Sarah, I would say graduating or moving on from the gug, gug, goog, something like that, it's going to be about sustaining that tone in between the G's. So instead of singing gug, 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 and then eventually gug, just one g to get your chords together in the beginning. Then, okay, so first step, just sustaining your tone in between the helpful gus. Second, start rather than with a g, start with a balanced onset or even a little bit of a glottal onset. What do I mean by that? It's that sound that you make when you say, uh-oh. So try that with me, Sarah, and anyone else watching. Uh-oh. Feel that little stop in the middle. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We can start our singing tone with that slight, really, really gentle glottal stop. Eventually, we want a balanced onset where we're not going, that's harsh. That'll hurt you if you do it every single day. But but in the beginning, you can graduate from ga. Sorry, I switched pitches. That sounded weird. Ga. You can try a little bit of a glottal onset. And then graduate to a balanced onset. Hope that answered your question. Olivia is asking, can we do technique exercises on song work, like with Shake It Up, again from the 30-day beginner course? Yes. Olivia, I would love to do that. Maybe we can do that next time, since we don't have too much time, but can you give me specifically what you want to work on? Because we could work on many different stylistic techniques. So Olivia, just tell me, what exactly do you want to see? Because I think that's a great idea. We should apply this stuff to some song work. I'm definitely a fan of that. Thea is asking, do you give more air or withhold air to get a certain tone? Is there any relationship between that? Yeah. So Thea, we were talking mostly today about the shape and size of our resonators impacting the tone. And we talked about our articulators, our tongue and lips. And we didn't really talk about our level of chord compression or the amount of air that we're allowing in the tone. So what Sarah was just asking about kind of applies to your question. Sometimes we do want that breathy tone, particularly if we're singing, a Billie Eilish song Or Ellie Goulding. She's another singer who kind of has that ooh, that airy sound. She's not going ooh, ooh, that super light, airy kind of falsetto sound. So that will certainly impact your tone. It doesn't necessarily correlate with the size and shape of your resonators, but yes, it does impact the sound, the quality of our sound that we're getting. You might have e versus e, ooh versus ooh. We're going to get a different tone quality if we have some air in there versus no air, or not no air, less air. Asher's asking, what about vowel placement moving through different registers? Such a good question. A lot of singing teachers will talk about modifying your vowels as you approach your passaggio. So today we talked about the importance of opening up your vowels as you're singing higher pitches to avoid an overly constricted, tight sound. There are times where closing up your vowel will help you to navigate over your passaggio a little bit better. So an example of that, Asher, let's see. For a tenor or bass, different passaggio points. But let's say we're singing on an oh, oh, oh. So for me, in order to navigate over that passaggio without cracking, oh, oh, still a little bit of an adjustment there, but my vowel modification was to drop my jaw and to slightly narrow my mouth position. Oh, a little bit of a crack. Oh, rather than oh, and I get this really obvious crack in the sound. So Asher, play around with that, because that's not a hard and fast rule. You might find, depending on the vowel, that closing up a little bit helps you. So if you're singing, let's say, eh, you might want to close to eh, eh, eh. It's still kind of the same principle, though, at least for me, of dropping my jaw and narrowing this way, not narrowing this way. E, we could think of that as narrow, but I mean narrow. E, I hope that answers your question. Essentially, I'm not giving a hard and fast rule. You'll have to play with it. But, sometimes narrowing the vowel, maybe this way, dropping the jaw or not. I'm sorry if that's not super helpful, but the answer is modifying your vowel, going over your passaggio will probably help you. But I can't tell you with certainty, do you want to close up that vowel or open it up? Because different singers kind of approach their passaggio in different ways. So play with it. Camilla's asking, to strengthen my mix, should I focus mainly on the NG and the nya, mix belt exercise videos? Do you have any other recommended exercises? Camilla, so we talked about, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, we talked about the difference between a chest mix and a heady mix. So that chest mix, you would use exercises like the ba or the no, ba, 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 no, 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 getting into a bit of a mix in your chest voice. And then the nya or the ng, yeah, versus whoo, yeah. I would say, yeah. Camilla, I think you're on the right track. I think just know what kind of mix you're trying to work on. Are you starting from chest voice and thinning and nasalizing to get into a chest mix? Or are you starting from head voice and kind of opening up and adding some kind of oomph to that sound? So, okay. Starting from head voice is what Camilla clarified. So starting from head voice, yeah, you can use any of those exercises depending on the sound that you want. So yeah is going to give you that really edgy kind of cutting catty sound. Ba, ba, or ga will give you a little bit more of an open sound, not so catty and forward. So yeah, just depends on the tone you're going for. But essentially what we're trying to maintain or add going from head voice to mix is a little bit more vocal effort, a little bit firmer compression, a little bit of that body engagement, and yeah, whatever gets you there, whatever helps you out. So those exercises you mentioned, all of those are good. But again, the and the nya is going to give you a more forward, bright, focused, pingy tone. And then ba and ga, things like that, will give you a slightly, heavier, more open quality. All right, you guys, you're great. Thank you for joining me. Next time, I'm not sure what we'll cover yet, but that will be posted on the 30 Day Singer forum once it's decided. It'll also be posted here on the YouTube channel. So if you've not subscribed, please do, and then click that little set reminder bell so that you can join live and get your questions answered. Again, thanks for being here. I hope you guys are safe, healthy, doing well. Keep up the good work, and I'll see you next week. All right.